It's almost like someone that's well prepared and studied for a test. And you ask them, how do you think you're going to do on this test? Well, I should dominate this test. I should make an A on this test. That's confident, but that's also humility.
Right.
Because you're prepared. You're prepared. And then what do you want me to say when I know I'm prepared for the task? How do you want me to respond? And that's when we get into the old quote where don't allow my confidence to offend your insecurity.
Welcome to a special remastered edition of the Corporate Competitor Podcast presented by Forbes Books. We're bringing back one of our most popular episodes, this time in a brand new way. Originally released as audio only, this conversation is now available on video for the very first time, giving you a fresh perspective on one of our greatest interviews. This is part of a new series we're calling the Corporate Competitor Classics, where we revisit powerful, timeless leadership lessons from the archives and bring them to life on screen. If you've heard it before, I promise it hits differently when you see the story unfold. And if you're seeing it for the first time, you're in for something special. So let's dive in. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Man, I'm glad to be here. You are my man. I feel like you was during there living with me for quite some time, huh?
So, Coach, at the very beginning, you said we are not doing a biography. You wanted to do a book that was about growth. You wanted to help the reader grow, elevate, dominate, 21 ways to win on and off the field. So tell me, why did you want to make that the way that you attacked this book?
This book has been in my spirit for well over a decade, probably a decade and a half. Like I had already had the name, had the thought process. I just needed you to help me flush out the chapters and get it in the correct order and to pen my thoughts, because I have a hard time writing, but I could talk it, I could say it, I could articulate it, because I barely ever write things down. But it's pretty much like a navigational system, I believe, to success in different parts of your life. We all want to win this game of life, I call it. And I'm in the third quarter and I'm up probably about 21 points. Like I'm winning. I'm up. I'm dominating this thing right now, but I want others to attain success as well and to enjoy life immensely.
And what I loved was that the chapters are so actionable, right? They're not just some crazy, they're not just your thoughts. They're literally filled with now do this. And one of my favorites was the one where you talk about make confidence your natural odor, right? It's a confidence. Confidence is a word everybody would use for you. But how can you coach me and others to gain confidence? What are some things that you would say?
I mean, just like I'm sitting up here looking at the chapters in front of me, and it says make confidence your natural odor, but then it says confidence means everything. I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't involve confidence. You wouldn't be where you are if you didn't have that confidence to take my words and turn them into a book format. Certain people in life wouldn't be where they are if they didn't develop the type of confidence, and that comes from working, perfecting, going through trials and tribulations and storms and still standing. You may smell like smoke knowing that you came through your fire, but you're still standing. And it said the consistency of performance is your best job security. Then I say, be who you say you are. Well, we have a multitude of the country trick-or-treating right now, and it ain't even October. But be who you say you are. If you say you're kind, or darn it, be kind. If you say you're hilarious, I want you to make me laugh. Like, be who you say you are and being confident. This is the tricky one. And I want to conversate with you on this one. Be confident and humble at the same time. Like, that statement is, to me, unbelievable, and it could be somewhat contradicting if you just glance at it. But you really have to sit and think and really just digest it. So tell me, when we were having our conversation, what did you gather from being confident and humble at the same time?
Well, what I saw was your ability to be so confident was in many parts driven by a belief that you had done the work, right? Which, and if you've done the work, and if you believe, and that's where I really want to get to with you as well, because there's something about you and the way you believe that makes others believe, and so that that projects as humility. And it's funny because at the same time, you're right. There are a lot of people that want to say, boy, that guy's just full of himself. The truth is, the more they get to know you, and the more I hope this book lets them do that, they will see that the reason you are confident is because you've earned that right. And the work done creates a sense of humility and calmness within you that maybe is others don't necessarily see.
Well, I don't think they could fathom it. It's almost like someone that's well prepared and studied for a test. And you ask them, how do you think you're going to do on this test? Well, I should dominate this test. I should make an A on this test. That's confident, but that's also humility,
Right.
because you're prepared. You're prepared. And then what do you want me to say when I know I'm prepared for the task? How do you want me to respond? And that's what we get into the old quote, where don't allow my confidence to offend your insecurity. Because the majority of this country is somewhat insecure, by all means.
Well, isn't that the truth? But I'd love to ask you about belief, right? The videos that you have challenging, when you say, do you believe? Do you believe? When you do that, and the way that the energy that comes out of those people as a result of you challenging them, why is belief such an important word for you?
It's been such an important word for me ever since I was a child. When people looked at me and said I was too small, I didn't come from the right side of town, or I wasn't going to get the opportunity. But I never doubted me, because I know the work that I was going to put in, and the work that I had already put in the gift that God had given me, and marry that gift with work, extraordinary work, and understanding of the time and the moments. And I just always believed. I've never looked at an obstacle and thought that I can't handle that. I can't dominate that. I can't succeed in that. It's so funny. We had my leadership class today with probably about 15 leaders on the team that I simulated. And I talked to them about Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. I talked about King Nebuchadnezzar. Yeah. I talked about that, and I talked about the faith and the confidence that they had. And they said, we're going to throw you in the fire. Then I brought out the point that the Bible states that the men that took them to throw them into the fiery furnace were killed because of the heat that the king asked to make it 7 times hotter. So I'm trying to figure out, how in the world did the men die that was taking them into the furnace? But because the miracle had already started right then.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had to walk in on their own then.
They could have turned and run.
They could have turned around. And you talking about confidence, and you talking about unity, because all it took was one. All it took was one man to say, I ain't signing up. I'm not. I just seen several people die right there. I'm not doing this. I'm going to turn. I'm good. I had a good life. I was somebody. I was, over affairs and everything. And you want me to come in? No, I'm not doing that. It's all it took was one. But they stuck together, unified. And they had confidence that no matter what happened, that God had their backs. And that's the confidence that I try to display on a daily basis.
Wow. And in your encouragement to the young men, even at leadership council and in those roomfuls, as I watched you doing it, was about, do you believe in you? You wanted to make sure they understood that that you had it, you believed in you, but you also believed in them, but they had to believe in themselves, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? They had to believe in order to walk into the fire.
They must. I mean, you talk about a sport that's a unified sport. It's a team sport, but individuals get drafted. Individuals get compensated. Individual gets highlighted and showcased. Also the team somewhat, but the individuals. So I need you to do your individual job like no other because you believe that you can. And that will ultimately help the team win in every aspect. And that's something that we try to employ. We try to build the whole man, not just the football man. Because if he's confident in school, he could be confident in football. If he's confident in football, then he could be confident in school. If he's confident in school, confident in football, he could be confident in the community. We try to build a whole man.
And that is so important and often missed. I mean, often we think the way that you are going to be judged is, wins and losses, right? The final scores of games. I asked you one day, and I think maybe the greatest line you ever said to me was when I asked you, what's a successful season? And your line was, we'll know in about 20 years when we see how these guys turn out, right? And I think that was enormously powerful because you're building more than a football team.
And I'm not judged as a coach by the same criteria that other coaches are judged. I'm not judged on the transformation that we went from winning one game to winning four, then what we're going to exponentially grow this year. I'm not judged by the sellout for every season home game. I'm not judged by the 21 million that we made for the city on every game weekend. I'm not judged by the 800% of sales increase for our apparel. I'm not judged by the influx of applications to even enter this school. I'm not judged by any of those wonderful things or the ratings that we accumulated. I'm not judged by that. They just judge me by a win or a loss. And it's far greater than that. What if these kids hadn't impregnated a woman, throughout their whole tenure here? What if these kids turn out to be wonderful young men, wonderful fathers, or wonderful siblings to one another? What if these young men turn out to be world changers and world leaders? I mean, it's so many things to judge by. You can't just judge us by a game in the score. Unfortunately, that's what we're compensated by, and that's what we're judged by.
I want to ask you about another chapter. One of my favorites was when you wrote iron sharpens iron. It's a biblical lesson. We learned a couple of biblical references. Yes. Iron sharpens iron. And we're better when we're surrounded by people who can make us better. You talked to me about the greatest football you ever played was on the practice field against Jerry Rice. Nobody ever got to see it, right?
Nobody got to see me practice against Jerry Rice. Nobody got to see me practice against Andre Rison or Michael Urban. Nobody got to see those tasks. That's when iron was sharpening iron. That's when that transformation happened, that you were able to go into the game confident because the guy you were playing against was not as good as the guy you practiced against. Although there was no hand clap, there was no people serenading you and loving on you or being critical of you at practice. It was just practice. But practice was the place where I perfected my craft. And I wanted to not only be the best. So if you want to be the best, you got to challenge the best. You got to put your best foot forward on a daily basis. I mean, it's easy for someone to be critical when they're on the sideline, but not when you get your butt out there. So you can say what you want, but can you do it? And why would you listen to your critics when your critics have critics? That's something I can't even comprehend. Why am I going to listen to a fool that can't even do what I'm capable of doing? I ain't got time for that. Ain't nowhere in the world. And you're not going to whoop me with a pen when I have the propensity to tweet back or post back, right back at you. You're not going to beat me that way.
Well, I love it. When I think of what you learned by practicing against greatness, right? But the fact that you were constantly sharpening yourself. I think about our listeners are by and large mostly business people, right? They're mostly executives, leaders. How can they use this concept of thinking about the other companies the people that they're competing against as an opportunity to grow themselves?
You should always be hungry for knowledge and hungry for the education of advancement. You should always desire to go to the next level. You should never get so comfortable with your seatbelt on and your lazy boy with a remote control in your hand when you doze off and fall asleep at the wheel. You can never be that person. You got to always want more. It's never a satisfaction. It's like you're never full. You're always somewhat hungry, where you may not need a full course meal, but you may need a snack here, a snack there, but never get so full that you don't want to go after more. See, I've never been satisfied, and I've always been my worst critic. When in regards to, I may have played a game that no one caught a ball, but I knew on that route he could have had me if they had thrown. So now I got to go back and sharpen up on that route that I was a little delinquent on, that I was a little hesitant on, that I wasn't as aggressive that I should have been. But it got to really judge yourself and be authentic with your judgment and your criticism of yourself. But criticize yourself happily, not angrily.
Where does that lack of satisfaction, that lack of, there are a lot of, human nature is you won. All right, that's cool. I'm on, as opposed to saying I won, but boy, I could have done better. Where does that come from for you?
Just wanting to be the absolute greatest ever. My leadership group last week in our session, I said, who wants to be great? Of course, all of them raised their hand. I said, who wants to go pro? Of course, all of them raised their hand. I said, what else do you want? They said, I want to take care of my mother. I want to, be debt free. I want to be all pro. I want to do this. I said, the difference between me and you guys? He said, what, coach? I said, I wanted to be the greatest ever. Mm-hmm. And see, all those other things will come. Like all those other things will come when you accomplish that goal. So you guys just want to go to Pro Bowl. You guys want to do this. I want to be the greatest ever. Exclamation mark. That's the difference. So having that thought process and that mindset, that was never a satisfaction of the task, because most people, and I told you this a multitude of times, most people enjoy the culmination of the fact of the game, whatever. I enjoy the journey.
So how do you continue to push yourself even today? How do you continue to wake up every day, still fired up about the journey? There's got to be days. Are there ever bad Dion days?
I don't have bad days. I don't have bad days. I have bad moments, even bad hours, but never a bad day, because I have the remote control of my life. You don't have that. I'm not giving you the propensity to have that over me. I'm not giving you the batteries included. I'm not giving that to you. I'm like, you can't turn me up and turn me down, turn me on and turn me off. I can't allow you to have that over me. I can't do that. And you got to understand, man, I'm always trying to get to the next level. And the way you get to the next level, you got to put something out in front of you. We have a chapter in here called What's Your Rabbit? Going to the dog track as a kid when I wasn't supposed to be there, and seeing those rabbits run around inside of that track, and those dogs with the most beautiful greyhounds trying to apprehend that rabbit, knowing they couldn't catch him, but he was always out there in front. And that's where I fathomed my life. I'm not going to catch it, but I'm going to go get it. I'm going to always try to attain it and go get it. And everyone has to have a rabbit that they're chasing.
Absolutely. Speaking of this idea, iron sharpens iron. I love your Aflac commercials with Nick Saban, right? They're funny, they're iconic. Everybody, what a cool mixture of the two of you. But I know in any one of those shooting days, I know there's some downtime, and you shared with me that the two of you between takes, you're always learning. You're always. Tell me about those conversations. Is there a story? Is there something that you might share with me?
I went to Coach Saban with a problem that I had, and it was before the season started. We were shooting a commercial. And he said, you know what I did? And he gave me an illustration, a true illustration of what he did in a similar situation. I was like, Coach, I can't do that, Coach. If I do that, I'm going to be criticized. True. Now I'm just telling you, that's what it's going to come to. And I'll be there. It came to that. And I had to end up doing what he told me I needed to do in the beginning. And so I didn't doubt that he was right. It was just the timing of it that I couldn't pull off. And I respect the heck out of him for all the wisdom, all the conversation. And he knows I'm just prompting him to keep going. And I don't say too much. I just say, and? For real? And that keeps, you're joking. Like, and that just keeps him going. So, but he
Oh,
is,
there's a great lesson
he's
there.
one of my, yeah, he's my hero. He's the coaching guru. I don't think anyone will ever eclipse what he's accomplished in college sports.
But I love that you have an opportunity, you have a window with a legend, right?
Mhm.
Somebody that you can learn from, and instead of jumping in, you use and really, and then and as you
Yeah.
said, you continue to get more, right?
Well, that's just like the chapter that Iron sharpens iron. No matter where you are in your career, get a mentor. Get somebody that you look up to and look out for you. You look up to them, but they also look out for you. That's
Mm.
very profound.
Look up, but you want them to look out. I like that. And looking out for you. Man, that's powerful. Another one of my favorite chapters in your book, because this was so applicable to all of us. In chapter 12, you use the phrase, your time is your most valuable coin.
Wow.
You learned early that's important, that it's the one equalizer, right? Now, I don't have more
Mhm.
time than you do. You don't have more than me. It's what we do with it that separates us.
That's why jealousy and envy occurs so much because they think it's only about the gift. It's not just about the gift that God has granted you and God has blessed you with that uh, you polished to the point that it's an unbelievable gift. But we still have the same amount of time to execute and operate the gift. So time is my most valuable possession. It's my most valuable coin. And I'm very careful of who I spend it on and who I spend it with.
Mm.
Because time is unbelievable, man. We just got finished in the leadership group. I talked about their day and how they need to start off with accomplishing something and being successful in it. I don't give a darn if it's making up your bed. I don't give a darn if it's walking your dog. I don't care what is it. This is the goal. Get up and do it, and no excuses. I'm not talking about brushing your teeth, things you have to do, take a shower or use the bathroom. You got to do that. I'm talking about those other things that no one summoned you to do, but you're doing it anyway. It's a schedule. It's a routine that gets you going. Like I like my quiet time in the mornings. I like my time along with the Lord where I get my morning word and I put it out and that executed. Now I'm ready and I'm getting myself mentally prepared for the day and nobody bothers me until I walk out that door. When I walk out that door, they know I'm ready. I'm ready for the battle. I'm ready for the fight because every time that door is a knock on that door, somebody's wants something. Ain't nobody coming in there to be a blessing. Somebody wants something, whether it's a opinion, whether it's a direction, whether it's guidance, whether it's a conversation. When there's a knock on that door, is something to be garnished.
Before we continue, I want to remind you that if one of your 2025 goals is writing a book, but you don't know where to start, I'm here to help. In my new role as publisher at Forbes Books, I'm working alongside a world-class team to guide aspiring authors like you through the process of getting published. Whether it's a story, a big idea, or a project close to your heart, now's the time to make it happen. Just visit ForbesBooks.com/Don to get started. You've made a couple of references already to this leadership team, this group of leaders, and you had it at Jackson State as well. You had a group of folks. Your Thursday meeting.
I had a group that was somewhat the young men on the team that needed assistance, that needed help, that needed guidance, that needed navigational system. But oftentimes, those were the same guys that didn't want to attend. And I'm sitting up there thinking, I'm sitting up here preparing a whole message and a whole conversation to try to edify all of us and try to take us to the next level and try to get you guys more intertwined with what we do here. Because none of you are starting right now. Like, it's no starter in this group. There's guys that could help this team, but you're not starting. And when I heard of the reluctancy to desire to come to this meeting that was only 30 minutes, one day a week, I prayed about it and I pivoted. And I changed that to a leadership group.
Mm.
Ask all coaches, give me your 2 to 3 leaders, bona fide leaders in your positions. And they gave it to me. A couple guys, it's not a leader. It's a good player, but it's not a leader. It's two different things. And I got the leaders. And they're in there 15 minutes early. Everybody has pen and paper. They're hungry. They're sitting at the edge of their seats. Their body language don't say, I don't want to be there. They text and tweets at them say, I don't want to be there. They're 100% inclusive and thought-provoking and conversational. And I love it. Because now that I invest in the top, now they go invest in the others. And now we ultimately get what we want. Because when I was investing in the others, they weren't investing in anyone. And it fell on deaf ears. So I had to pivot.
So I love that pivot. One thing you said that I want to unpack real quick is you said a good player doesn't mean they're a good leader. And that's funny because for most of us, we think, well, you're only going to follow somebody who's really good at something. What makes a good leader?
I don't have captains. And I think a lot of the people in the country understand I don't have C's on the jerseys of my leaders. I have an L or D. That's the leader or a dog. Every dog ain't a leader and every leader ain't a dog. Just because you walk in the front, that don't mean you're a leader. Just because you make the most money, that don't mean you're a leader. Just because you have the nicest home and a multitude of fanfare and adulation, that does not constitute that you're a leader. You have a gift that attracts people. That don't mean you're a leader. A leader don't have to say he's a leader. He just leads. He leads from the front, the back, the middle, anywhere. He's a leader. When all hell breaks loose, everybody looks to a certain person. That's the leader. That it don't matter where he's located or where he's positioned himself. Just because you're talking the loudest does not mean that you're the leader. Just because you have the nicest clothes and the nicest things, that does not mean you're a leader. A leader is someone who is a person of influence, a person of unity, a person that brings people together and lifts people up. And oftentimes they advance people. That's a leader.
One of the categories you are not looking for their skill set. You're looking for their ability to actually draw others together.
That's right. Skill set is your gift.
And so one of the things that I know about talking to the folks that you came with from Jackson and even a little bit about this pivoted leadership group is that you are incredibly vulnerable when you're in this conversation with these folks who are important to you. You share you in ways that most of the world will never get a chance to see. You tell them stories of your journey and your troubles and your challenge. Why is that so important? And coach me a little bit as a somebody that wants to grow as a leader on how I can do the same.
Well, it's all about comfortability. I want you comfortable to the point that you forget that we're really having a conversation. It's just a natural progression. It's almost like we film so much of content around here with YouTube channels, several of those around, or the school's channel, as well as a documentary, that people forget that they're taping. It's just natural now. They're not acting. They're not doing this for the camera. That may be like that with the new guys in the first week, but after that, they're fine. It's that same way when you're talking to these young men. Like, you want to get to a point where it's just like a family or friendly conversation. And if I take my shirt off, you feel strange, that with your shirt on and my shirt is off. So sooner or later, you take your shirt off and you feel comfortable. Like, hey, man, we're chilling inside in here. Everybody got their shirts off. Let's chill. Let's talk about this. So when I'm able to unapologetically discuss my trials and yet tribulations, not just my successes, not my wins, not my triumphs, but my trials and my tribulations, they identify. Shoot, coach, just like me. So coach, you did this when you was my age. No, I did worse. So coach, you thought like this? Yeah, I did. Sometimes I still do. So to be transparent with these young men is vital, because real is winning right now, man. Like genuineness is winning right now. Like Halloween and trick or treat ain't winning right now. Like the most, pretty much in I say this side of the country, which when I say that I mean probably in ethnicities, certain ethnicities, true, honest, genuine people, even if they're flawed, they're winning. They're successful because more people can identify with them than that person that looks like she's hadn't done or he's hadn't done anything wrong in their lifespan. Being unapologetically honest is winning right now.
So that's such a great lesson, but it's maybe one of the hardest things for a lot of leaders to get because as people progress, they think they have to put on a
Conform.
show or they think they
You
have
want to
to.
conform. Quit trying to bend and break to satisfy someone else's appetite for you when you're not satisfied with your own appetite. Sooner or later, you're going to look in the mirror and you got to like what you see. Or if you don't, you're going to have to change it. And I foolishly love what I see on a daily basis. Yeah, do I have faults? Yeah, there's some things. I just told a young man, patience. Patience is something I'm working on a daily basis.
A lot of people recognize you for all the amazing accomplishments on the field during your playing days. But the thing that stood out to me was that you love being a coach. You really love it.
Yeah, I love coaching.
Why is it that you love coaching so much? And why are so few great athletes capable of making the transition?
Because they want to find themselves in every young man. I had a wonderful career, and I'm not looking for me. I'm not searching for me. I'm not trying to create another me. I'm trying to find out what these kids are really good at and really coach them to be great at what they're good at. And that's a different approach. A lot of former players really probably weren't satisfied with their careers in some form or fashion, and they're trying to live vicariously through those young men. And sometimes they get a little hard on them or they get a little soft on them. Yeah, I don't know the formula, but I know the formula that I have, man. I just want to serve as a navigational system for these young men. I really do. I don't want them to falter to some of the things that I fell for and fell to, but I want to show them the path to success. It's hard for you to take somebody somewhere that you hadn't been. Really hard. Yeah, it takes a lot of conversation, a lot of direction to get somebody someplace you hadn't been.
Yeah, you definitely know. So again, while working on the book, one of the other stories that stood out, I had the chance to interview a number of the women who worked there in the football facility, and to a person, they talked about the meeting that you had where you brought them into the room and you talked to the players about the importance of being respectful. And to a person, they had tears in their eyes when they said no coach had ever treated them that way. But you said it was about you setting a standard for the men that you were being asked to lead. How important is that? Talk to me about that leadership role of setting a bar, being unapologetic about the fact that if you don't reach this bar, this is one you will not be forgiven for. You let the players know if you mistreat these women, you might as well just go home and don't have mama call me.
True. It has to be standards. It has to be a bar. It has to be something that you're holding one another accountable. You can't just let these kids have this wonderful candy shop around here and they're already making money off the field, which we love. But the thing about money, it escalates who you really are. A fool broke is going to be a fool rich. Or a fool with a little something is going to be, a fool with not something. So that's just how it is. It just escalates to the problem in the situation. We want to respect not just one another. We want to respect yourself. There's no way that you could disrespect a woman in here and say you have respect for yourself. There's no way. Because what if somebody disrespected your mother when she came up to the game the same way that you disrespect that woman? Now you want to fight. Now you want to settle it with fists. Now you want to get out of character and get out of who you really are and who you called to be. I don't believe in that. I don't condone in it. to that. We're just trying to get these young men prepared for the next level of life. They don't have to be professional football players, but they need to be professional.
They need to be professional. That's true. So your first year at Jackson State, team was 4-3. The next thing you know, you're winning the conference 2 years in a row. You go to
Right.
Colorado. You open with 3 big wins, and then you have several weeks in a row things don't go as planned. Where do you learn the most, from your wins or your losses?
I never got my butt kicked to say, "Oh, I learned a lot of things for that." I never. I don't know who says that. Like, it's just like somebody sitting on the bench. You know, when you go into the pros, you may not start your first few weeks, and they're like, "You want to learn a lot? I want to learn a lot sitting over here." Who said that? How you learn from not playing? I don't understand that. And now you learn from getting your butt kicked. No, I learn more from winning than I learn from anything. So, losing is depicted on how you lost. I mean, we got our butts kicked twice, but we lost several other games. That gives you hope, that gives you faith, that makes you say, okay, I got to fix that. I got to fix that. Need to fix that. I got to do something about that. And then you fix it. You go get it. Losing identifies your lack thereof. Winning causes you to really take a look at what provoked you to be successful. And now you try to perfect it and do more of it.
But have you ever worried or seen where maybe because you're winning, some people they offer as critical an eye to their own maybe missteps? I mean, you made the point, yeah, nobody caught a ball on me, but they could have in these situations. But not everybody is as self aware as that. How do you build that into a team?
That's tough. That's when you analyze these young men, when they think they come in here to interview you, you're really interviewing them. And when we talked about getting smart, tough, fast, disciplined young men with character, we really mean that. So I don't mind you missing one of those attributes, but 2 or 3 of those attributes, you're really not for us. And we got to identify the players that are our type of players. Everybody wasn't called to play for me. I wasn't called to coach everybody. And that's just it. You know, some people are called to be over there, and there's nothing wrong with that. You got some wonderful coaches around the country. There's some wonderful programs around the country, and you got thousands of kids that are really good at this game. And you just got to pick the right ones for you.
You know, you use the words. I still wear my bracelet right here with smart, tough, with character. The 5 words that you look for in all, and you say, not everyone's built to play for you. These are the 5 words you chose. Why did you choose these 5 words? And how could I learn to look? I want to be that. That's why I wear my bracelet. I look down every once in a while and say, am I being that?
These 5 words ain't just about football. It's also about life. So when we talk about being fast, it's not being just fast on the field. It's being able to retain things, process things fast, make decisions fast, do this fast, relinquish that fast. I mean, you're talking about tough. I'm an old school man. So a lot of things that are condoned these days, they weren't condoned. I have to catch myself because I want to say some things that I can't say because I'm a head coach. Certain things wouldn't fly then that they allow now. We old school, man. Like, we weren't missing practice unless there was something broken, or something bleeding profusely. We weren't doing that. It's tough. Like not only physical tough, but mentally tough. Like, mentally tough. That's what we're looking for. Smart, tough, fast, discipline. You know what discipline is. When nobody's looking, how you going to act? When nobody's around, who are you really? Like, the discipline, having the propensity to get up and do it when you know you need to run, you know you need to train, you know you need to lift, you know you need to eat, you know you need to rehydrate, all that stuff. Smart, tough, fast, discipline, and character. Character is unbelievable, man. Like, character is that person you are when nobody's looking. Nobody's looking whatsoever. Character will take you much farther than your athleticism will ever take you. Having character.
And how do you?
And
Character is
people look for.
as the character is so important to you, how do you how do you look for that? What are some of the tricks that you're looking for to judge someone's character? Because everybody puts on a show when they're with you, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I'm 56 years old, man. I've seen a lot of shows, matinees too. Yeah, I've seen a lot of shows, man. So you know what's what. And you know through the journey that these kids have led on, not only through college that we get so many out of the portal, but through high school and their youth coaches. We do a tremendous background because now these scholarships are worth a lot more than they used to be
Mm.
because there's some attachments come with those now with NIL and collectives. So a lot comes with that now. So you got to be sure.
Yeah, it's a big investment. One of the words, speaking of money and investments, that became kind of a big deal this last year was your use of the word receipts, and that you kept them when based upon people that were doubters or sending shade your way. And talk to me about how you use receipts. How do they, what kind of fuel do they offer for you and the team?
It's the challenge. That's probably another word substituted for the challenge.
Yeah.
Challenge. You challenge me. You have the audacity to challenge me. You're talking
The
about
doubt.
me because excuse me?
To doubt you.
Yeah, to doubt me. I mean, to doubt me, to ridicule me, to unfalsely or falsely judge me. Um, it's crazy. I mean, we get any and everything you could think of in print media and social media and whatever media, just really diagnosing us wrongfully.
One thing that while working on the book, and I had the chance to go with you and be at your house there in Dallas or outside of Dallas and see you in a more in the non football world where you're in your environment, your best environment. But there's two different there's prime time and there's Dion, right?
Right.
I loved it. I think Michael Strahan said this: prime is flashy, Dion is family, right? You found a balance. You found in this stage of your life the ability to balance those two in ways that not everybody can. What advice would you give us about getting that ability or growing into that place that you can balance?
Well, you got to make sure you know the address of where those persons live. You got to know the address of where I live, where Brian lives, so you make sure they mail get to them. Because sometimes you could confuse the two entities and deliver different packages that shouldn't go to that person or this person. You got to know who you are and what you want and have a plan from the time you wake up and from the time you go to sleep. And one of the journal chapters is I work my plan and I plan my work.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not mistakenly falling into anything. Everything I do, it comes from focus, comes from anticipation, comes from knowledge and wisdom and prayer. And I go get it. And I go get it. So these two entities are making it possible for us to do the things that we're doing in Colorado and with my kids and in this country. I mean, those two entities, Coach Prime and Dion, like that it's been a wonderful run. It's been a wonderful journey. I'm in the third quarter of life and I'm winning.
I have one last question I really wanted to ask you about. Early, your very first day in Colorado, one of the videos that went viral was the time when you walked in, you talked to the players about the fact that some of them, their future was going to be somewhere else. You were,
Right.
I asked you about it. You talked about the importance of being straight with people, but for most people, there were all these critics and folks who were going, "Who says that?"
Let me tell you something. When a CEO takes over a business or corporation, what's the first thing that he or she does? They cut the fat. When a new president or whatever takes over as the president, what happens to the cabinets?
It's a new cabinet.
Like, why in the world would you think me taking over a 1-11 team, I'm going to leave it as it is? Man, that's the dumbest thing ever. So now everything is on the coaches that left. So you didn't give a darn about firing the coaches. but you care about firing the kids. The kids are the one who lost the darn game on the field. Coaches had something to do with it in the development of all that. I understand that. I do understand that. But you got to understand, I was an elite player. I never blamed my coach, man. Because I was coached to do this, to do this, to do this, and I did it. And if I did my job and he did his job and he did his job, we're going to win. When we didn't win, it's because somebody didn't do their job. It wasn't that we weren't coached for it. So I've never been one to blame a coach. And what's so funny about those young men that chose to leave, we probably had a meeting with 20 guys at the most and said we may go in a different direction. Everybody else quit because the standard. They saw the standard was not the standard of old. Like the standard was going to be a commitment to excellence. The standard was going to be hustling. The standard was going to be attention to detail. The standard was going to be something that they can comprehend. So they X themselves out. If you ever change your expectation in life and your standards, watch how many people walk away from your life that know they can't comply with the new you. Just change and see.
But what's exciting is when you change that standard and the right people walk into your life.
There you go. Then you attract those people. You attract normally we attract who we are. So if you're around some fools, you need to look in the mirror. You need to look in the mirror. You know, the circus people only hang with circus people. They ain't no circus people hanging with regular people.
Coach Prime, it has been my honor to be your teammate over this last year and to get a chance to learn so much from you. Thank you today for gracing everyone listening with your wisdom, and thanks for being a corporate competitor with us.
Thank you, my man. I appreciate you. I can't wait till people read this book, man. You did a wonderful job. You blessed me tremendously.
Man, am I ready to run through a wall and play today? The best part about this for me, I'm going to be a little selfish here, is that you all got, a healthy piece of Coach Prime's time and you got some lessons from. I've been getting this for a year. How great is that? This guy has made me better at every turn. So let me start with 3 of my greatest takeaways, and there are so many. It was work to get down to 3. But I loved, my favorite chapter in the book is Make Confidence Your Natural Odor, right? Make confidence your natural odor. It is, you get that confidence, you gain it through working hard to perfect your craft, right? Through trial, through tribulation. And I loved it when Coach said, you may smell like smoke when you come out of the trials and the tribulations, but ultimately, it's going to be confidence that will be left behind as your odor. The challenge, and I love the way he asked me to kind of engage with him a little bit about the idea of being both confident and humble, and the fact that those 2 words can and should be used at the same time to describe a great one, a great leader, is that you should be able to have the confidence to be able to express yourself strongly, but be able to do so with a humility that makes others want to listen. My second great takeaway, and this I love, and I hope all of you will walk away and think differently about Colorado football in the future as you watch that team, that his commitment to building the whole man, not just the football man, right? The importance that, and what he wanted to make sure we understood is that our job as leaders isn't just to try to develop the technical competence of those who work for us, but to look at and say, what will it take to develop the whole person? Because a more complete teammate, a more complete person on our team will allow their technical skills to shine even brighter and to be even more impactful for us as a team. So don't just invest in what makes your teammates technically strong. Pour into all aspects of their life as best you can, and you will be a better team. And then I love when he talks about iron sharpens iron, right? It's always been one of my favorite conversations. But think about how he perfected his craft by lining up in practice against Jerry Rice, against Andre Rison, against Michael Irvin. And to do that, right? For us to be successful in that same way, for us to be able to get better because we're competing against better, get better because we have other great talent in our midst. You have to adopt coach's belief that you can never be satisfied. You are never full. You're always hungry, right? And to do that, you have to be your own critic, your own harshest critic. That's what he said. And he pointed out that there were lots of days when no one caught a ball on him. And, statistically, everybody might say it was a great day. But he knew that there were 2 or 3 times where had the quarterback chosen to throw, Dion was out of place and they would have probably completed the pass. So instead of accepting the celebration of his success, he was his own harshest critic. He went back to work on what he needed to do to be better the next week. I loved it when he said, most people enjoy the game. I enjoy the journey. And when he talked about having those leadership conversations with his own players, trying to encourage them to want to get better while in the competition against each other. And he pointed out, he said, most of you want to go to the NFL, even the Pro Bowl. I wanted to be the greatest ever. And if I was the greatest ever, all those other things would take care of themselves. So it's a mind shift, as Coach was saying. It's a mind shift that we can all go to work on. I don't know about you. I'm ready to play. I'm ready to play today. And I'm ready to go out and be an even more effective corporate competitor. corporatecompetitorpodcast.com/notes.